I think that we're going to continue to see pricing power shift from west to east, and ultimately that's going to be good for silver investors.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for May 27th through June 3rd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature 2023 1-ounce Gold Britannia at just $59 over spot. We also have backdated silver 1-ounce Kangaroos at $3.10 over spot. And finally, we have the hard-to-find silver half-ounce Canadian polar bears at the very competitive price of just $2.50 over melt. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is our good friend Peter Krauth from thegoldadvisor.com and also the author of The Great Silver Bull. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, Elijah, as always.
Well, it's great to have you today. Last time we had you on, silver was breaking above the $28 level. Now we have fully broken through the $30 level and sustained that level for about 2 weeks now. So what is your take on what we're seeing right now?
So, Elijah, I think that the market is coming to terms with the idea that supplies of silver are limited. And although there have been some considerable above ground stocks of several billion ounces, we've seen that steadily being drawn down over the last several years. In fact, if you look at the three large major futures exchanges, so that's COMEX, LBMA in particular, and then the Shanghai, and you look at also the silver ETFs globally, they've been drained in a considerable to a considerable degree. And there's some research actually from Sprott just a few weeks ago showing that inventories have dropped about 40% since 2021. So this is across the three large futures exchanges that hold above ground silver inventories. So, there's always the pushback, which I don't disagree that there's a lot of silver that's held, off of, I guess, what would be reported areas. You've got people who own it privately, physical silver, bars and coins. You've got perhaps some high net worth individuals, perhaps even a few sovereigns. But I think the question becomes, because there's the argument that that's a source of silver if the silver price is high enough to start meeting demand, and I agree. I just think that we are in such uncharted waters when it comes to economics in the last several years that I think that yes, those inventories can and will to some degree come to market, but only under much, much higher silver prices. So I would certainly not, as I say, some bank on that in terms of meeting demand. I would not for quite some time.
I guess it kind of shows right now that those inventories are not coming to market because we are having drawdowns on the major exchanges. So obviously, we need higher prices for that to happen.
That's exactly right. And that's clearly what the market is telling us. And if you look at what's been happening with with spot silver prices in China in particular, they're trading at $3 to $4 per ounce above what they're trading at in the US, for example. So it tells you that where the demand is for true physical silver, taking delivery of physical silver, because the Shanghai exchange is a physical futures market. You have to have an ounce there. You have to have a bar there for your contract, to back the contract. And so people are buying silver off of that exchange, taking delivery, and they're prepared to pay to $3 to $4 higher. I feel that's a much better representation of true silver price. And I think that we're going to continue to see pricing power shift from west to east. And ultimately, that's going to be good for silver investors.
No, when it comes to demand, a lot of people are wondering, where is this demand coming from? As you mentioned, there's a lot of demand in the East right now, but you've also done research regarding demand in India. Can you expand on that?
That's right. So the obvious sort of huge, and for good reason, the obvious big demand factor is China. They control 80% of solar panel manufacturing or more, and that's been growing by leaps and bounds. Demand for silver from solar was up 64% last year alone. Solar now represents 20% of the entire silver market. And what we've been seeing lately is some big news out of India. Really, they are working on building the world's largest renewable energy park. This is in Gujarat state in India. It's going to be 5 times the size of Paris. In February alone, silver imports to India represented about 2/3 of 2023's imports, so 1 month. And now we have news that already in the first 4 months of this year, imports into India have surpassed all of last year's imports. So India, despite the sort of overall sort of smaller numbers in terms of silver demand versus China, is really quickly becoming a force to contend with. And I think that we need to start paying attention to what's going on there.
Now, when it comes to kind of where we go from here, do you still see silver at $30, a little bit above $30 as a deal? And do you think there's a lot of upside potential in the market?
So as a deal, yes, especially sort of medium to longer term. I will say that I would not be surprised as we work our way through the summer that we could, and I'm not saying this has to happen. I'm saying we could see some kind of a pullback, sort of a reckoning, a digesting of these gains, that because silver's up about 45% since the late February lows. That's just tremendous. It's up about 35% since the year started. That's about almost triple what gold is up. So that's fast and furious. I think we could see some kind of a digesting phase consolidation where silver will perhaps test somewhere below 30. My first target would be 28. If we really got a washout, perhaps 26. But I think that 30 is before long going to start to become a new floor. I've been pretty impressed with how resilient silver has been over the $30 mark, and retesting 32 in the last few days again. So again, if you don't feel like you're exposed enough to silver, and you see it somewhere below 30, I'd say it makes good sense to probably start at least nibbling at it and increasing a position or starting a new position if someone doesn't have any exposure, and build on that. And as I say, it's kind of like the mining stocks: buy in tranches at least, and mitigate your risk. Do what's called dollar cost averaging. But this is a bargain. There's no question. And if you look at, as I say, the pricing in China, for example, up to $4 more per ounce, then people in the West certainly have access to a bargain right now, whether silver is above 30 or not.
Now, it seems like the next resistance point for silver, as you've mentioned before, is the $50 level. And there could be some, if we do see silver continue to move from here, there could be some, definitely a lot of resistance there, because people have bought, $50 back in 2011, might be looking to sell at that point. Your perspective on the $50 level and maybe how fast we could move there?
Yeah, I mean, so you're right. There's actually very little resistance from once 30 has been clearly established as a new floor. There's not really there are a few stops along the way, to be fair, but I think that you look at technically, and going back to 1980, the first time it reached that level, there really is little to no resistance between here and $50. I would absolutely expect, like you said, that we're going to see that tested a few times before actually finally breaking through, like we did 30. In the last 4 years, silver tested 33 times before just breaking out now. So the first time was in August of 2020, right after the pandemic hit, and silver went from, say, $12 to $30, about 140% return in 5 months. Then, and the silver squeeze, which was the end of January in 2021, it also ran up to about $29 or so. So the third time was just in the last month or so when it tested 30 and then just sailed through it. This was, I think, right around a couple of weeks ago in the middle of May. And so really looking quite strong right now. And there's some great work by a friend and colleague, Jordan Roy Byrne, who does some fantastic technical analysis. And he's basically said that this is one of the, silver's technical setup and run ultimately to 50 is going to be one of the biggest technical breakouts of history for any asset class, just because it has been so incredibly long that silver was at the nominal $50 level back in 1980. So a lot to look forward to. First, not that much resistance on the way to 50, and then after that, uncharted waters. I mean, there's no real clear technical upside after that. We've never been truly above 50 for any kind of sustained time. So it's going to be really exciting times. Looking forward to getting there and beyond.
It should be, and it seems like some smart money is already moving into the sector. We discussed this last time. Do you have any updates on that regarding, the big players really moving into the silver market?
There's a really interesting, a really interesting development with one company that I've written up, a company by the name Endeavor Silver. So they are a medium-sized silver producer. They're silver heavy, which is what I like. So majorities of their revenue is from silver production. Actually, a bit of a rarity in the space these days. And they on this would have been right around the 9th or 10th, I think, of May when they reported their first quarter. And it was a gangbuster day in terms of trading and gains. That stock was up 20%. This is $1 billion market cap company. The stock was up 20% in a matter of a few hours. They had tripled their trading volumes that day. And I think what happened was you had the prior 2 quarters where they were underperforming a little bit. The market, the big players that were watching wanted to get into the space, and that's a good name with liquidity and great leverage. And we're probably watching it very closely and saw for those 2 quarters, well, they're struggling a little bit, dealing with cost inflation. They're also in the process, by the way, of building out a new mine that's going to be very profitable on a per ounce basis. Again, silver rich, mine called Terranera. And so this is a little past halfways. They likely will start production at the end of the year. So that's going to bring great leverage, further leverage to the name, to the company. And obviously, when you reach that first pour, that's when the market feels more confident and starts to buy into a given name and starts to push it up. So I think the smart money is already looking at names like that. Saw that when they reported on that day in May, their first quarter, and saw that it was essentially a switch from slightly negative to slightly positive. That was enough. That was enough, along with a silver price that was trending clearly higher, and they just decided to pile in. And it was a beauty of a day to watch what happened with that stock. And if you look at, I have the newsletter portfolio set up in such a way that I have and purposely I've got the larger and medium cap producers at the top of my list, and then I've got the small producers and developers next, and then I've got the explorers. Well, I can see in real time when the silver price starts to move, I can see who's moving and from which category. And it was clear in March and into the sort of the first half of April that it was the larger caps that were moving. And then as this rally matured, then you started to see the mid tiers and the developers rally, and then the juniors just took off at the end, and some names that were just dramatically oversold and pounded prior to this silver run up. Some of these names were up over 140, 160% in a matter of 2.5, 3 months. So it just gives you an idea of what we could look forward to as silver continues to run, and people feel that they've perhaps missed the boat, will not have missed it, but it's going to set sail soon. So it's definitely something that you want to at least have some skin in that game.
And it sounds like you think there's still a lot of upside potential in the stocks as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a tough couple of years for them across the board, with a few exceptions. In each of the categories, whether it's large caps, mid tiers, developers, or juniors, a few names have stood out, have done exceptionally well. The average name has struggled, but as we've seen in the last few months, they can catch up in the matter of weeks, days, weeks, months, absolutely. And so you can go from, portfolio that may be down 40 or 45% to down 5% in a matter of 3 months. So patience is very much rewarded often in the silver space, and you can go for long periods where it's very quiet, and then it just suddenly becomes explosive. And it's that volatility that people can take advantage of it, play with, and work to their benefit.
Now, for those really looking at the market right now, obviously, it sounds like there's a possibility for a greater pullback. But what do you say for those who, I guess, are looking at this 45% increase since February and saying, it's too hot right now, I really have to wait before jumping in here?
So what I would say is if you're already in the silver space, then I get it. If you're in the silver space and you feel you want more exposure, I get it. So, continue to watch it closely. If you want to increase your exposure, look for an opportunity. Look for days where it comes off a little bit. If it sort of scratches the $30.50 level, somewhere around there, you may want to add a little bit. If it goes below 30, I would be looking personally to add a little bit. If you have zero exposure, I wouldn't wait. I would at least decide what is the amount that I'm prepared to ultimately allocate, and I would start nibbling. I would be willing to allocate a quarter or a third of a position now, despite it feeling a little bit expensive, like you say, that run up. But there's nothing like putting a few dollars into a stock or an asset, silver, for example. There's nothing like doing that to get you to watch that position or that new placement like a hawk, and you have true involvement in it and commitment to it. And so I guarantee you're going to start watching that very closely, almost on a daily basis, to see what it's doing. And so there's a risk that, paying $31 or $32, let's say, spot price for silver right now may end up being a little bit expensive if, as I say, there's some risk that in the next weeks or months that we go to 28 or even maybe 26. But that may also not happen. But getting in now, even at these levels, as I say, that'll get you committed to watching the space. And if you do get that pullback, I feel that's a cue to layer in a second tranche, perhaps, of capital.
And then looking much farther ahead here, then what are the signals that you're going to be watching out for to show that, the space really is too hot and becoming kind of bubbly, and that it might be time to take some chips off the table?
Sure. So, I mean, when you get to see things like double, triple normal volumes, trading volumes in some stocks, on the upside, with silver running up and these names coming up and running up, and especially in the juniors, if you see those kinds of big moves volume wise in the trading of those stocks, then start to look for it, especially if you're lucky enough to have doubles or better in some of those your exposure in those names. look to start taking profits when you see that kind of thing start to happen. And it will happen. You're going to get days where, so far we've had a few days where silver has moved 5-6% in a day. And that's pretty hefty for an asset, even for a relatively small market. But it's a global market and it's liquid, so that's still a pretty big deal. But when you start to see even beyond that, maybe 8%, 10% in a day, it's if silver is at $30 and for it to move 10% is $3. Not such a big deal. 10% at $35 is $3.50. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but 10% is a pretty big deal in a single day, for example, in a market and in an asset like that. So I think those kinds of things are going to be clues. Large percentage gains in a single day or multiple days is even a bigger clue. You get this, I think that's sort of a clear signal of fear and people starting to pile into a certain asset, is that you have multiple days of strong gains, multiple percent, multiple days in a row, and then big volumes trading in some of the stocks. And obviously, hand in hand, you're going to get these big gains in some of those stocks as well. So these are the most obvious clues, I think. And then obviously starting to see, the silver price ticker running by on some of the mainstream media. That's something you don't see it all these days. Reports on silver price and moves in the silver price in mainstream media and interviews in mainstream media on silver. Again, those are going to be some of the best indicators.
Yeah, and maybe the time also when you hear your neighbor talking about it.
That's right. If your Uber driver is telling you to get into silver, you may want to rethink it, or at least take some profits if you've already been in at that point.
Definitely. Well, Peter, we really appreciate your time today. If our viewers are interested in learning more, where can they find you?
So it's been my pleasure, and easy to find me. Go to silverstockinvestor.com. That is my newsletter. That's kind of a real-time way of focusing on and following the entire silver space. It's the only newsletter that is focused exclusively on silver. And to get a big picture view of the opportunity in silver, my book, The Great Silver Bull, you can find that on Amazon. And I'm on LinkedIn, Peter Krauth, and I'm on Twitter, pretty active there at Peter_Krauth. That's the best way to follow me, and look forward to interacting with your audience.
Sounds good. Any last thoughts before I let you go, Peter?
Yeah, get into silver. It's not too late. Looking back at some of the stuff we just talked about, there's different ways depending on everyone's own personal position right now versus silver. There are different ways and degrees to be doing it at, even at these levels. So get into silver. It's not too late, and it has much harder to go. The benefits are still far ahead, and they will be very, very rich benefits.
Sounds good. Peter, thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
My pleasure. Thanks, Elijah.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for May 27th through June 3rd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature 2023 1-ounce Gold Britannia at just $59 over spot. We also have backdated silver 1-ounce Kangaroos at $3.10 over spot. And finally, we have the hard-to-find silver half-ounce Canadian polar bears at the very competitive price of just $2.50 over melt. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.